The riders of Rohan arrived, breaking the ranks of the Morannon orcs with a thunderous charge. King Theoden, however, has extended beyond the lines of his Rohirrim, and the piercing cry of a fell beast with the Witch-king of Angmar himself cast a shadow over the battlefield. Welcome back to Miniature Game Montage and another Middle-earth strategy battle game battle report. As you know, we're brand new to this game, and we're filming our progress through the opening scenarios of Battle of Pelennor Fields. Today we turn our attention to Scenario 2, Theoden's Last Stand. As before, this scenario is played on the relatively barren landscape of Pelennor Fields. The general basis of the scenario is to help us better understand might, will, and fate. If you're familiar with this game and see us make any mistakes, I welcome your feedback in the comments below to help us improve. King Theoden will start at the center of the battlefield with his Rohirrim desperately trying to catch up. The objectives in this scenario are simple: kill the Witch King, Lord of the Nazgul, or defeat Theoden. The good player will have priority for the first turn. Some special rules in this scenario specify that Theoden may not move for any reason in the first turn of the game, as he's fixated on the Nazgul's approach. The riders of Rohan are out to protect their king at all cost and automatically pass all courage tests for charging a terror-causing enemy such as a fell beast. Riding for ruin and the world's ending are 12 riders of Rohan with 4 throwing spears and King Theoden. The Witch-king of Angmar approaches with 12 Morannon orcs, 3 normal, 3 with shield, 3 with spear and shield, and 3 with spear. We've noted the orcs with no shield with a white die next to them. We hope you enjoy this battle report of Theoden's Last Stand. And as we jump into turn 1, the riders of Rohan are going to move forward the full 10 inches, all of the cavalry looking to ride to Theoden's side. The Morannon orcs will then move forward 6 inches, bringing the battle line forward. The Witch-king of Angmar will activate and will cast a black dart onto Theoden. He's going to use 4 willpower of his 12, taking him down to 8, but he gets a 6 on the cast. Using 2 willpower to attempt to resist the magical power, Theoden rolls a 6, and the cast does not go off. With a growl from the fell beast, the Witch King charges into Theoden. As there is no shooting, we go directly into the fight phase. Theoden is going to get 2 attacks, the Witch King of Angmar getting 3 for the Crown of Morgul plus 1 for the charge. He rolls a high of 5, and Theoden also rolls a 5. They go to a tied fight value, so it goes to a d6. On a 4 to 6, King Theoden will hold firm and stop the Witch King in his tracks. Theoden strikes with his sword, strength 4 against the defense 8 of the Nazgul, and does not cause a wound. He needed 6s. King Theoden will use a point of might to turn this into a 6, and that will prompt the Nazgul to use a point of fate to attempt to deny this wound on a 4-up, which he does. And that brings turn 1 to a close. We go to the ever-important priority roll for turn 2. The Witch King will lose 1 willpower due to Will of Evil. And with a roll from both sides, it does appear that the forces of Mordor are going to win the roll, and we are going to see the battle line move forward again. 2 orcs looking to protect the right flank of the Witch King. The right flank advancing forward, as will the left. The Witch King of Angmar is going to attempt to cast Transfix using 1 point of willpower, targeting King Theoden, and that will go off, needing a 3+. King Theoden is going to attempt to deny this with his last willpower, and he is successful, rolling a 6. The Nazgul then again charges into battle with King Theoden, this time joined by 2 Morannon orcs. With movement over to the forces of Rohan, a rider with a throwing spear is going to check up just short of this orc and chuck a spear. He needs a 4, and that is going to miss. He charges into contact. Across the battle line, riders of Rohan move into contact, throwing their spears. And while they do get some hits, they are unable to slay any of the orcs, needing 5s and 6s for the ones that have shields. Some of the Rohirrim charge into the front while allowing their friends to wrap around and charge the spears in the back, eliminating the orc advantage. The same begins to happen on the Rohan right flank as they charge into contact. Spear riders moving forward and chucking their spears, needing 4s, 5s to wound with no shields, and 6s to wound with shields. They do land hits, but there are no orcs slain, and they charge into contact. With battle lines drawn, one of the Rohirrim on the far right flank is going to wrap around the backside, and the battle lines are drawn. With a clash of swords and spears against shields, the fight phase begins. We have 2 riders attacking one of the Morannon orcs here. The orc does roll up a 4. There will be 4 total attacks coming across. The Rohirrim get a 6. They win the fight, and he is unable to get pushed back as he is trapped. The spearmen behind him also tied up in combat. They will double their strikes, and they do roll up a 5. He does not have a shield and is taken out. The spearman behind rolls up a 2 in his duel, as does the rider of Rohan, so they go to the fight value, and we missed that they get +1 to their fight value on the charge. We consider their fight values a tie, which it is not when the Rohirrim charge, but the tie is going to the good side. He is knocked prone, so double the strikes coming across will be 4 in total, and looking for 5s. And while the first 2 fail, there are 2 more attacks coming out as he is trapped, and that will be unsuccessful. We continue action down the line as 2 more Rohirrim are fighting 2 orcs. He's getting support from the spear. The Rohirrim roll up a 6 and win the duel. They push them both back and look to strike, doubling their strikes, and they will get a 6 and take him out of action. And we roll up for the next fight. The orcs getting 2 dice for support. It does look like there's a tie. We will go to a d6 as the fight values are tied as well. Once again, we miss the +1 here for the Riders of Rohan for this entire battle report. The evil side does win the draw, pushes the rider back, and then rolls up a 6 to take him out of the game. That's a rules miss on our part. The same thing happens on the right flank with the Rider of Rohan taking on an orc spearman, and he rolls up a 4. They tie. The Rider of Rohan should get a +1 to the fight value, but we consider them equal, and on that 1 to 3, he is pushed back. The orc player wins the duel roll when he should not have, and then he rolls 4 strikes. The strength 4 against the defense 5 requires a 5, and that Rider of Rohan is also slain. As combat continues down the line, we do have one of the orcs that is facing off against 2 Riders of Rohan. They roll up a 6. They will win the duel, push him back, and make strikes. And while the orc is modeled with a shield, he actually does not have one, represented by that white dice beside him, and that will be enough. The orc will be slain, and we continue with another combat. This time, one Rider of Rohan against a Morannon orc with a spear support. The rider rolls up a 5 and does win the duel, and he pushes them back and will make strikes. And this orc also does not have a shield, as represented by that white dice there, so it will require 5s in order to take him out, and it is successful. The last fight takes place as a Rider of Rohan getting 2 dice versus an orc with support also getting 2 dice. We're rolling out a cocked die here. The orc player with a 6, and he will win the duel, pushing that Rider of Rohan back and then making strikes. 2 strikes in total coming across, and he needs 5s in order to slay the rider. And dice hit the deck, and that is going to be successful as a 6 is shown. Another Rider of Rohan taken out of combat. We then move front and center where the Witch King has charged King Theoden, and he does get 3 dice for his Crown of Morgul and 1 for the charge. He rolls up a 5. He is going to win the duel, pushing King Theoden back, and he will decide to make strikes. King Theoden will be knocked flying off of his horse, taking a strength 3 hit that will not cause a wound, and as Theoden hits the ground, he rises to meet the Witch King, who is now making strikes against him. With Theoden prone, attacks are doubled, and 8 dice come out looking for 5s, using the Fell Beast's strength of 6 against Theoden's defense of 7, and there are no wounds. The Witch King will use 2 might to adjust 2 of these dice to 5s, and this will cause wounds on Theoden. Theoden using a point of fate, his last point of fate on a 4+ to attempt to avoid being taken out of the game with these 2 wounds, and he is successful. There will only be 1 wound that goes through. And turn 2 comes to an epic close as King Theoden was knocked off of his horse but rose to meet the Witch-king of Angmar. The Witch-king will tick off another point of willpower due to being in combat, and while we are missing a few special rules for the Rohirrim, we are ready to begin turn 3. Rolls coming out for both sides, with the tie going over to Rohan. And the first move is King Theoden as he gets to his feet and does a retreat back to safety. As the horns blow, we see Rohirrim begin to charge into the orcs, taking away control zones and picking their fights. We are also going to have one of the riders of Rohan that is going to make his way around the back and charge into the Nazgul, tying him up in combat. On the Rohan left flank, we have more riders of Rohan making charges, one of them going into the Witch-king front, attempting a trap maneuver. The rest are going to charge into the orcs, throwing their spears. And once again, while landing hits, needing a 5 here, there is no wound. We do have more that charge in, also throwing spears, but while they do land hits, there are no wounds. The orcs attempt to counter the charge by supporting where they can and moving into combat. As we go into the fight phase, we have 2 riders of Rohan facing off against a trapped model, and the riders of Rohan are going to win the fight with a 6. They will make double strikes against this orc, and with that 6 on the first roll, it is going to take him out. The next fight, we have 1 rider paired off against 1 orc. Once again, the riders of Rohan are going to win the duel. He's going to push him back, but he is trapped, and that 6 is going to take out another orc. Behind them, one of the riders has slipped around the back, and they are going to tie on this. This should have went to the rider of Rohan on the charge, but once again, we did miss that special rule. And we go to a 4-up for the good side, and it is good, so it did not come into effect here. The good side is going to win, pushing him back, knocking him prone, and making double strikes. The rider gets 4 strikes in total, but is unable to find the mark. On the other side, we have a rider tied up with 2 orcs here, and the orcs are going to win the duel roll, pushing him back. And they will be allowed to make strikes, looking for a 5. They get a 5 and a 6 and slay the rider. The next fight is 1-on-1. The rider of Rohan getting at 2 dice. He does lose. The orc player rolling up a 5. He pushes the rider back and makes a strike, but he is unable to cause a wound. Next to the Witch-king, we do have another fight where a rider rolls up a 6. The orc player rolls up a 5. He will be pushed back and double strikes coming out for being prone. And he is looking for a 6 here. He is going to get it and take the orc out. We then move to the Witch-king, 2 riders of Rohan charging in. They do not have to test for terror per the scenario. 4 attacks coming out, they get 3 6s, but the Witch-king also rolls up a 6. He is going to win the duel, knocking them back. He will then make strikes against the front rider, and he will take him down. The 5 showing that will slay the rider, and now rolling 1 for the back, splitting these wounds up, and it is unsuccessful. And as we come to the end of turn 3, we have a very important priority roll coming up for turn 4, as there is a clear path to Theoden from the Witch-king, rolling those dice out, and it looks like Rohan is going to take the initiative. Theoden orders his men to charge in again, and some of them are trying to tie down the Witch-king as much as possible. Others attempting to clear out the remaining orcs. We're going to see a lot of riders pile into the Witch-king here, attempting to get more attacks on him and potentially take him out of the game. And leading from the front, King Theoden is also going to rejoin the battle, charging one of the orcs along with his Rohirrim. The Fellbeast lets loose a screech as he is surrounded, and we begin combat. First, we have 1 rider of Rohan facing off against a single orc, and it looks like he is going to win the duel on a 5, pushing him back and then making double strikes against the prone orc. The orc does carry a spear and shield, but a 6 is rolled and it takes him out of the game. We then roll up for the next rider of Rohan, attacking a single orc with a spear. Gonna re-roll out a cocked die here and take the win on a 6. He is trapped, he goes prone, strikes are doubled, and he is looking for a 5 here, and he does roll it on the first batch, taking another orc out of the game. On the other side, action continues with a rider charging into 2 of the orcs, and it looks like the orcs are going to win this combat, throwing the rider back and then making strikes. And looking for a 5 here, they do not get it. The other rider, along with King Theoden, are going to strike one of the orcs here. We just roll out for Theoden here. We were unsure how to handle these, being a multi-combat with a hero. We do know Theoden rolled a 6 first and will take the duel, and he will knock that orc back and strike with his fight value, taking him out on that 6. Moving to the Witch-king, getting 3 attacks with the Crown of Morgul versus what should be, I think, 4 for the cavalry. I think we messed this up and allowed them to get that +1, which they normally don't for monstrous cavalry. It does not matter, however, as the Witch-king knocks them back and then slays 2 of the 4. And we move quickly into turn 5, and once again the Riders of Rohan are just going to pull out the priority, and we are going to see more riders charge in. King Theoden is going to charge into some of the orcs, looking to clean them up. The rest of the Riders of Rohan are going to move into the Nazgul, attempting to trap him. With no shooting, we go into the fight phase, and King Theoden is going to win the duel on a fight value. He is then going to launch strikes into the orc after knocking him back. And strikes coming across, he is going to get a 6 and slay the orc. We then have a Rider of Rohan attempting to take out the other orc. They roll up a 4, and it looks like the Rider of Rohan rolls a 5, pushing him off, and then rolling it to slay the model, needing a 6 as he does have a shield, and he gets it. Another orc is taken down. So now, just the Riders of Rohan have swarmed the Witch-king. And once again, we have 4 Riders of Rohan. I believe we accidentally gave them 1 extra attack here, as they only get that benefit against monstrous infantry, not cavalry. But the Witch-king is once again going to roll up a 6, winning the duel, pushing the riders off. And he is once again going to make strikes, dividing them up between 1 each, and he is going to slay 3 of the Riders of Rohan. And with the game hanging in the balance, we move to another turn. Rohan is going to win on a 4. Mordor rolls up a 2. And King Theoden is going to charge into the Nazgul along with the Riders of Rohan, trapping the Witch-king and attempting to take him out. In one glorious last stand for King Theoden, he is going to strike along with the Riders of Rohan. This time, we only give the Riders 1 attack, so there will be 4 in total versus 3 of the Crown of Morgul. And he again rolls up a 6. King Theoden rolls up a 5. He is going to use a point of might to change that into a 6. They will tie on the fight value. But on a 1-3, the evil side is going to win the duel. The Fellbeast turns to Theoden and unleashes a brutal power attack. Comparing the strength of the Fellbeast against the strength instead of the defense for Theoden due to the rend, he wounds on a 3. King Theoden using a last point of fate to attempt to roll this off and ignore the wound, but he fails, needing a 4 up, and the beast snatches Theoden in his jaws and breaks his back. Unable to move, Theoden lies helplessly on the dirt, and the Riders of Rohan flee as the Nazgul looks to finish his prey. And that brings our second battle of Middle-earth strategy battle game to a close. Really hope you enjoyed this. It was very narrative, and we frankly loved every minute of it. Can't wait to do another. If you have any comments on the way that we play things or the rules, please leave those below. Also, a massive thank you to the Supporters Club. Your names are on the screen now, as well as on a piece of our terrain somewhere out there. If you'd like any information on that, a link will be down in the description. It's by no means necessary. Anything is totally optional. Quite frankly, if you've watched the video up until now, you've done more than enough to support the channel. So thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.